hope this works. Technical issues. Lots of
Episode.
technical issues. Oh. Episode what? 5? I can make that 5. Oh no, I can't. I can't make an 8. I can't do
Episode
it.
58, guys.
Yeah.
So the big 5-8. The big 5-8.
5-8.
Welcome back to Testing Normal. I'm sure you guys have been missing us, and
We missed you.
understandably so. Understandably so. We have been traveling a lot this week, mostly Jordan and I.
Almost
just wanting-
exclusively.
exclusively traveling this week, trying to see what it's like in the rest of the country, like what people are really going through, and just trying to just delve into people's daily lives, get in there with them, feel what they're feeling, you know? Usually by hugging them,
Yeah.
occasionally by spooning, whatever needs to be done.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, why not, right? I mean, what would be preventing us from getting really close to people right now?
Right. There's nothing out there, right?
No.
But, you know, there might be a couple little funny things floating in the air that people don't know about. Or maybe they do. So,
Right. Yeah.
guys, welcome back. Jordan and I are just talking random shit right now.
Right.
But
Exactly. Because this is us.
We're about to get in some interesting topics that we've kind of been delving into this week. It's been kind of a crazy week, one might say. There's been a lot of contention over certain issues of should the government be mandating certain jobs to be able to start going back into circulation, and then where's the risk involved with certain populations and what's that looking like. There's a lot of stress in the air, kind of. Do you feel that, Jordan?
I feel the stress even from a distance.
Even from distance, yeah.
Yep. Which is sad.
It's sad. It sucks, but I get it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I get the people's desire to want to get back to work, to make money, to be able to keep their businesses going.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that right now we have seen a significant reduction in positive cases in our region.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, even a lot of the states where there was a huge explosion, Louisiana, New York, Chicago, a lot of those states have seen a flattening
Right.
of their curve,
Right.
which is
good.
amazing. That's
That's what we
so
want.
good. That's fantastic, right? So now the question is can we start moving back in a positive way
Right.
with introducing things
And
back
you
to
would
the
think from
economy?
the news that, like, all the people want that. And I think where I see conflicting things is there's definitely some people that have taken advantage of this and should have still been working and took a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people who are frustrated by that, like business owners and stuff. I could totally see that.
Okay, but wait. What are some of the companies that you feel like have taken advantage of it?
No,
That
not
should have been
not
working.
companies. I'm saying like
Or-
people. Like and it's just not like coming from like an article or anything. It's just from kind of like hearing people talk about it, like
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah.
either are in business or know people who have small businesses where people are like, well, I got to stay home, and it's like, well, but if they're still going, like, it's like me. Like I kept working. Obviously I'm able to work from home, so that's fine. But if I wasn't and I had to go into the office, I'd still go to my job. Like.
Right.
And just take precautions. Whereas I think there's been at least a number of people who have taken advantage of that because it was like, I get what they were trying to do, like giving like unlimited like sick leave and stuff like that. And if you really need it, then take it. But like I think some people took advantage of that system because there wasn't enough kind of gates and fences around those rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which makes it a little tough.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. It was interesting. The percentages of
Amador says,
population.
yes, we can. They've all taken advantage. Like, are you talking about
Yeah.
the companies or are you talking about people, Amador? Amador made a post and I basically commented on and said, come join us for the conversation.
Yeah, dude.
So he's here to rant, which we are totally okay with.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's people taking advantage of the situation. There
Yeah.
was several. You know, it was interesting. There were several markets that were talking about
Both, he says.
how you know, certain people hoarded a bunch of protective gear and then started selling it like masks for 25 pops a mask. right?
Yeah, right.
Which was normally like a markup of whatever, 10,000% or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it was pretty stinking high for sure.
but it's interesting. Certain countries also have different opinions as far as where they're at and how much they want to reopen where they're at as far as concerns of this outbreak flaring back up. So
Right.
today, for example, I saw you had an article posted about 9% of Britons wanted life to return to normal once lockdown was over. Um, but I would say,
Only 9% of Britons
right,
want
I would
life to
say
return.
way more than that in the U.S. would want that right now.
Would want it to not return to normal, or would want it
No,
to return?
would want it to return to normal.
Yeah, I think to some degree. I think that I don't think that we're going to come out of this and be completely where we were. I think there's going to be a new normal in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what those are, but I could see some of the precautions that we've done staying in place for a while. But
Yeah.
my opinion is, and I think a friend of mine called me and said, I can't believe you're for this lockdown. I was like, well, I am, like, reasonably. Like, I think there are some people that should, but I think that there's also, like, pretty quickly some things that they could do to continue to keep people safe. If they really think that it is a threat, which I think it is. I think it's maybe a markedly smaller threat than they originally had thought, which is fine because we didn't know anything about it a few months ago. Um, but to now say we need to continue to do what we're doing and basically die in our economy isn't isn't the right answer either, because that's going to cause a lot of deaths too if it goes on for too long. I think for a short time it was okay, but now it's like, can't we just keep the precautions that are there, let some businesses open up, hold them to the same standards that grocery stores have been held to and hardware stores have been held to, and let them reopen? I mean, it seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think it's an interesting sociological. This whole thing's a very interesting sociological study.
Yes,
Um,
for sure.
for a couple reasons. Well, first of all, I would say it. I don't. I would have to disagree with you a little bit as far as people thought it was a bigger deal than it was. Like, I don't think so. Like, I think it is as big of a deal as what people thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as far as the severity of the disease
Right.
and the lethality and the risks that you have if you get it.
Well, I would say
Um,
like a little bit of pushback. I don't think the lethality was to the degree that they thought it was. I think it's still bad. I think it's worse than the flu. Like, I'm not making that argument at all.
uh-huh.
But I think that the amount of people that would have died from it was grossly overestimated. But I wouldn't say that was a
Oh,
bad
no, no.
gross overestimation.
I don't think. Well, I mean, you can see that. What was his name? Not Fugazi. Help us, guys. What's the name of the head infectious epidemiologist?
Fauci? Fauci? Yeah.
Fauci. They said their predictive numbers were potentially like 200,000 or whatnot, right?
Right.
Now,
Well, at
granted,
one point they were saying like 2.2 million. So it's like
that was different though. That was 2.2 million if nothing had been done. If there had not been any restrictions, if there had not been any type of attempts to try to prevent the spread, right?
Right.
And then they changed it to like approximately 200,000, something like that.
Okay.
And then they said, actually, this measures we're taking are actually being far more effective. Like the distancing and the separation of individuals from spreading the virus is super effective.
Right.
And so now our numbers are even down lower, like 60,000 potentially.
Right. Okay.
So I don't think that they misjudged the lethality of it in the respect of the percentiles of individuals if you actually get the virus. I think those are accurate.
Okay.
But the fact is basically just the measures that we've taken have been effective.
Yeah.
And you can see the antithesis to that is New York. When you're not taking those measures, it's severe.
So what do you say then to some of the arguments that the curve was already dropping before we did some of the social distancing?
A couple things. It's a good question. One, we had so many, like I would say the month prior to us instituting the social distancing, I was getting flooded with respiratory illness patients.
Right.
That were high fevers, low oxygen saturation, and negative flu and negative strep, positive pneumonia, and we didn't have any idea what was going on.
Right.
And our hospital was actually super busy.
Okay.
And they weren't testing anybody for COVID for like months. Like I'd say a month and a half.
Yeah. So maybe, so what you're saying is maybe you had things going on that you didn't know what to even code them as.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
no,
so
we
and so
knew
they
what to
weren't
code
being-
them as, but we couldn't isolate what exactly it was that was causing it.
Right.
Like we could say they have pneumonia and they
I guess what I
have
mean is
respiratory
you didn't
failure.
you didn't know to code it as COVID.
COVID.
Right.
Right. But I would say the curve, when we first started,
Mm-hmm.
when we first started on the West Coast, East Coast is a totally different story. On the West Coast, though, when we first started instituting the lockdowns,
Right.
I would say we were at or near the peak at that point for the West Coast.
Right.
However, I think the peak would have continued to gotten worse.
True. That's a good argument.
If we hadn't instituted the lockdown. But I
Yeah.
think as soon as we instituted the lockdown, we started to see a digression.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people had also started to get cautious themselves. I know that I had at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing had really driven me to be more cautious at that point. I mean, it was when it was starting to break. We were in Italy, so we kind of saw the
That was so
the
crazy.
insanity
I can't
of-
believe we were there.
of that, and so we were like cautious on the way back, and
Right.
I mean as cautious as you can be in a tube flying
Yeah.
37,000 feet above the earth, but with recirculated oxygen and all that.
But
kind
it
of
was
stuff.
wild because we were seeing Europeans like walking around all over the place with masks on, and
Yeah,
they
and
were
we were
it was like everybody was starting to wonder what's happening right now.
You dummy.
But no, here's an interesting thing. Okay, here's my question.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented, right?
Right.
This is what I feel like people don't grasp the craziness of this. We have been on lockdown for basically 6 weeks now.
Okay.
Basically 6 weeks we've been on lockdown, and we're in the period of basically the last 6 weeks to a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
In the past month and a half, we've had 43,000 deaths that we know
Yeah.
are from the COVID virus.
Right.
43,000 deaths in a month
Yeah,
and a
it was
half.
like this last week that the U.S. passed the deaths for 2018-2019 flu season.
Right, in a month and a half. So
Right.
like for anybody to have to downplay the severity of it is just like shocking to me. Like
Yeah.
how could you basically you don't grasp the concept of the period of time in which it took for that many deaths to take place.
Well, did
Like,
you
that
hear?
would be
Did you hear what
unheard
the
of.
lieutenant governor on reopening the state in Texas? He said he was quoted as saying there are more important things to do than living, and he gave all these examples of like grandparents would rather die and have the country go on for their grandkids and everything. And he was like making these like big statements
That's
that were like
a big thing for
um,
him to say for somebody else.
Right, yeah. And now granted, most people in politics are pretty dang old. I think the average age of politicians needs to be brought down. That's my unpopular opinion, but
Yeah, I agree.
but for him to say something like that's the other side of things. And that's kind of like I had written like some thoughts that I had this week because we didn't talk about it last week intentionally, and that was fine. I think it was great. I totally think we should do a break again sometime. But this polarized different sides of things where people are like arguing is like it's fine to have a discussion. It's probably not the greatest thing to have an argument on Facebook about it because nobody knows what anyone's tone is. But people don't understand, like, regardless of your opinion on how things are going, you probably don't have a lot of like pull to change things right now, and you're just creating enemies with the people that you're in this with. Like,
Well, and it seems like a lot of people are searching for their own bias affirmation. Like that's a common thing that you see even when you're not in a pandemic, right?
oh, here's something interesting. This is something I don't have any articles for. Amador's saying, like, are they really COVID? He knows of an elderly man who had COPD, got sick, and died, so they said it was COVID even though it wasn't tested. So that is some articles I've seen. Is like they're telling doctors to code things as COVID even if they haven't been tested, if it's COVID-like.
Mm-hmm.
So
So in those situations, yeah, that's a good question. So the question basically is, how accurate are numbers if they're reporting deaths by COVID and they're not testing somebody for COVID, basically, right?
Right.
So there's a few things. In certain scenarios, there's qualifiers that you would have to have.
Right.
So you'd have to have certain, and the reason they're doing that, Amador, is because the government and the CDC and a lot of these health organizations have been a total shit show and have not.
Well, it's like the article I sent you before we came on here.
Implemented effective testing measures that are easy to access and easy to run quickly on a national scale. So there's certain qualifiers for those states to say yes, these were a positive COVID patient without the test. So certain tests, they'd have to have negative influenza screening, which tests for approximately they do it's called a viral panel,
right?
And the viral panel has like 15 different specific viruses that you can look for, and so all of those have to come back negative.
Gotcha.
And then you have to do a bacteria screening as well, which all of those would have to come back negative.
And then then
you'd have to do blood cultures to check for sepsis, bacterial growth. All of those would have to come back negative. And then if all of those tests, which basically is all of the known viral and bacterial infections, and they met all the requirements, saying like they have massive pulmonary failure due to basically their lungs filling up with fluid, and they have no other reason to have that type of pulmonary effusion, unless they aspirated on water.
To put it into layman's terms, what you're saying is you're saying a lot, but I think I'm translating this right. So what you're saying is, yes, it's true in an article or a report that would say they didn't test them for COVID, but it's not true to say they weren't tested, because what they're doing is ruling 100%. out a ton of other things.
Oh yeah.
To say that they don't have a test for COVID that's available to them, but if they rule out all the other tests that they normally would do for this time of year, then they can say, hey, it had COVID-like symptoms. We're pretty sure this is what it was. Okay.
And then in a lot of those cases also, they had known exposure to somebody that did test positive for it.
Right.
And that was able to get the test. So in nursing, they were doing that in nursing homes where individuals, like the whole nursing home, everybody was testing positive for it. But maybe they went to a facility where they couldn't test that individual because they didn't have any more capacity for testing.
Right.
And they knew that this individual and 15 of the other individuals around them all tested positive.
Right.
And they all died the exact same way. Right. Then it's
why at that point it's like, why waste a test? We know we know what it was.
Right.
And
then you get used to seeing there's certain test results that you get used to seeing, and we're seeing common themes. So there's certain lab tests that all COVID patients are having.
Well, so what's this one that you had done with the feet?
Yeah. Well, this is not in all cases.
Okay. Yeah. No. I know, but I found it interesting because I saw this article too, and I think it's a cool little thing to see. Yeah.
So a lot of viruses commonly can cause. It's called a viral exanthem. Is when you get a rash from a virus. But a common thing that we're seeing right now is a viral rash, mostly and more commonly in pediatrics. But we're seeing a lot of COVID patients, and they're calling it COVID toes. And they're getting this almost looks like...
Is there a picture in your article?
Sores.
Which one is it?
It would be the second one down.
This one.
Yep.
Oh,
so COVID toes. And basically what they're seeing is
hands?
They're seeing on hands. They're seeing on hands, but more commonly on toes. And it kind of looks like hand, foot, and mouth a little bit on the fingers and toes. But it's these really red, kind of painful, looks like ruptured capillaries at the end of the toes.
Yeah.
And it's they believe it's because of your whole body is so inflamed, such an inflammatory process, that it's causing sometimes these blood vessels to rupture at the end of your fingers or toes. And
that's weird. Is this like reddish? Because remember, I'm like color deficient.
Yeah,
so.
the fingertips.
Okay, so the fingertips down here. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So they're calling it COVID toes, but a lot of kind of dermatology groups have been mentioning this lately, saying this is a strange thing. But basically, another kind of crazy common correlation they're seeing, a health issue, is they're seeing a lot of COVID individuals, because it's such systemic inflammatory process.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, they're having
What does
kind of
systemic mean?
your whole body.
Okay.
They're having a high prevalence of micro clots, embolisms throughout the body.
What?
And that's then leading to multi-system failure.
So that's what
a lot of
is that what ends up hurting the lungs then?
well, no, it's actually the kidneys that it's hurting more, because a lot of COVID patients
yeah.
are going into kidney failure, and they're finding
Okay.
that it's actually these micro blood clots that they're throwing out. So now, like countries like Spain, if somebody tests positive for COVID, they automatically start them on thrombolytics, which is blood thinning agents now.
So that's weird. I knew someone that went in and they had kidney failure, but they got tested like 3 or 4 times and never came back positive for COVID, but had pneumonia and all the other signs and everything, and are still on dialysis because the kidneys have not come back yet.
Oh yeah, totally. That would make sense.
But they never tested positive for COVID. Like they have all the
and that's
signs
the other
for
thing.
it.
Like the tests have been rough. There's 70 different tests on the market right now
Well, and like the ones I showed you were like laced with COVID-19.
with ketamine. Oh yeah, COVID-19. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Ketamine. With crack cocaine to try to
They
wake the
were
patients
lacing
up.
crack cocaine, just really trying to get these people
Just on the tip, they're like, well, if we're gonna put things in their nose, we may as well put cocaine in their nose too.
So all of this to be said,
And my uncle says he loves our people, or whatever you are. These are avatars.
Oh, avatars. Yes.
They
Thanks,
represent
Gary.
us. He's not saying he likes us. He's for all I know,
Right.
he left by now. But yeah.
Okay. So all that to be said, I think that there's a whole world of unknowns,
Yeah.
and I think it's a socially responsible thing to have done what we did.
Right.
And I think that people were frustrated and angry about it, but I think that comes from a place of, and it's not going to be the nicest thing to say, but I think it comes from just a place of not really understanding the situation.
Right.
And that even though it makes them angry and they want to still play and they still want their kids to be able to play and they still want to be able to work and make money for their children, which I think that should have perhaps been able to continue in a better way. I think that it's they would also be mad if the government didn't do enough to protect them.
True. Yeah, I think that, and that's another thing that I've realized is that both sides of this, like the people who are, and there's more than 2 sides, but there's 2 main sides. There's people that are like, our economy is going to fall apart, which that's a fear of mine too. And then we're all going to get sick and die. And like, there's somewhere in between there. Yeah, sorry. But they're both mad at each other and say things like, well, you're acting out of fear. We're like, yeah, you both are acting out of fear. Like there's a reasonable place to be in both of those. Yeah. And I feel like the people who are kind of on the outliers and like really hold a staunch opinion on one side, they don't realize that we're all like, we need to get along. Like they may have a different opinion, but they're affecting things just as much as you are. And I don't know.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I've realized is through this, like, it's like, articles everywhere. It's just, this is what the whole news is about, is the economy is going to fail, or people are all going to die, or whatever. But I went down an interesting rabbit hole last night. Okay. Actually, it may not have been last night. I think it was the night before. But I kind of looked further into this, and I was looking at, so the state governor of, it's Larry Hogan, governor, the Maryland governor, Larry Hogan, he doesn't wait on Trump, and he orders 500,000 coronavirus test kits from South Korea. Okay. So he got a pretty dang good deal on these things. They're $18 a pop, and which is it was
$6 million.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was less than what the CDC was charging, and so
I don't know if that math adds up. I forgot the numbers you said.
It's fine. 18 times 500,000. Go.
Okay, yeah.
But
9.
then so that kind of led me down this path of like the PPE and these other things that we've all been told. Like if you listen
Mm-hmm.
to Trump every day, he says, which props
Oh
to him. At
yeah.
least he's like saying something every day. He may not be saying what you
Yeah.
want to hear, but at
That's
least he's
true.
like
Which is
there saying
crazy to
things.
think like he's saying something every day for the
But
past
like,
six,
our Oregon governor hasn't said
5 weeks.
anything
It's
in
crazy.
days. She'll like make a tiny
I
small
know. I
statement.
haven't
And it's
heard
like,
anything from her.
okay, the lack of saying anything, even if it's like we don't have an answer yet as to what we're gonna do,
Right.
you need to say something. Like
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
a
That's
good
been
leader
baffling
says
to me.
something. Like at
I
least
know.
says we're working on it. Like bare minimum comes out and says we are
What
not
is up
sure
with
yet,
that?
and we should
Seriously.
say something.
Great
But
point.
so that kind of led me down this path, right? And so I stumbled across this Reddit article that said that it claims that states are essentially smuggling PPE, masks, and all that kind of stuff in because they're being confiscated by the feds. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, that seems kind of conspiracy. I'll run down this rabbit hole for a minute. So I start looking through some of the articles, and people are linking like different governors and stuff who have set up like weird like drops and people to go out and receive the shipments, and they put it into like different trucks and made the trucks go different routes in different places so that they wouldn't, if one got caught, they would still have half their shipment. I mean, it sounded like running drugs. And
Wait, who would be looking for them or catching them
well,
doing this?
they're claiming that the feds have like confiscated them to then redistribute them instead of keeping them in the
Oh,
states. So the states have ordered
interesting.
these things. It's like this guy is like one of the top articles here on here, and he said that it's the Illinois governor Pritzker reportedly arranged for secret private charter jet to import millions of masks and gloves from China in order to avoid the administration's efforts. And it just goes on. Like there's a bunch of stuff. I'll link to this,
Hmm.
and different people are saying different things. I'm not saying like, hey, this is what's going on, or like following that rabbit trail of conspiracy theory, or like that's what I'm going to land on and that's what I believe. But I mean, it's plausible, right? So
Yeah.
things that are conspiracy theories that are
I can see
plausible
it. But I also
are interesting.
kind of, I don't know, but I kind of like the idea of governors like wanting and fighting for their own people.
Yeah.
But I also see uh, the ineffective approach of if a governor's not if we're not trying to help everybody in the country, then it
Right.
might hurt everybody too.
True.
So like the Oregon gave however many ventilators to New York to use,
Right.
which was good. I think it's great because we aren't utilizing as many, right?
Right.
And California did too, I think. Um, so I that's a super interesting rabbit trail to go on.
Amador says, "I wish our governor would keep quiet." Well, maybe they're saying too much too. So, of course, but I'm saying like we haven't heard anything from ours
It's
in like a
obnoxious.
week.
It's really very disappointing.
And it's
that
like
our
it's like
governor
if
has
I
said
didn't, if
basically nothing.
it'd be like if I sent my kids to their room just to protect them, but never
But then
went,
it didn't talk to
never
them about
checked
it.
in on them, and was like, "I
Yeah,
need you to
for
stay here
6 weeks.
I need you to stay here for a few hours because someone's in the house that's scary," and then just not follow up them for a week. I'm like,
Totally.
they would
Yeah.
freak out, and
It's
that's
madness.
that causes I think more unrest than it needs to, even if there isn't anything to say something.
Yeah,
Don't,
I can't believe that. That's crazy.
yeah.
Dude, did you hear about? I'm sure everybody did because it's all over the news. But freaking Kim Jong Un,
No, what
Kim Jong Un,
what did he die?
the man, the myth, the legend,
The Lord, the God.
the god of North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently he's in like grave danger and undergoing some type of like gnarly surgery.
It's probably because he
Um,
doesn't poop.
It's probably because he doesn't poop. Yeah, gods don't poop.
Right.
Also, he scored on a
He scored a perfect 18 on a golf course.
Yeah, he scored like a perfect 18. I think
he's
he scored like
he's a perfect ping pong player.
somehow he scored like a 13 on an 18-hole golf course. Or
Well,
something.
no, that works because it's like some of the ones swallow the ball and shoot it to the next one, and it just went in.
Right. They just submitted to his will.
Right.
So yeah, apparently he's like super ill, super grave kind of situation. But I was thinking about this. North Korea did not said to this date has said they have had no COVID cases, and China, yeah, exactly. But there was like reports about like North Korea like killing people that had been testing positive from like this kind of like secret, kind of report coming out of China. So it's kind of like, well, I wonder if Kim Jong Un, like, if the country's like actually in a super really sick state
I
and they
think
don't
Amador
have
is on
healthcare.
to something here. Okay,
What is it?
this is what Amador said. He said secretly when he had a meeting with Trump, he was given a dose of slow-acting poison.
Oh my god, Amador, you're a genius.
Yep,
But what if
you
that
solved it.
slow-acting poison was COVID?
True. Ooh.
Well, that's what China's telling them, though, right? China is
He
the
would
state-
claim to be the sole person taking on COVID in North Korea.
Right.
What if he said like,
Right.
"I am the only one that has COVID, and I'm
I
going
am
to
the
take
only
it.
one on it with it.
I'm
I
going to
am the
take it
only
upon
one of you."
myself, and I'm going to destroy it, so it does not take our country over."
My God, antibodies. No, but that's what China's been telling their people.
Oh yeah.
There were reports that the actual state government was saying that during a military exercise, right?
Right.
The U.S. troops brought the virus into China, and then it was spread through during this military practice session, whatever. And that's how it got populated in there. And now there's tons of xenophobia going on in China right now. And did you see that they kicked out all of the U.S. and foreign reporters out of China?
No. But
Yeah.
but speaking of that, like
Not all,
on that same
most
vein,
of them.
like we think we're so great. Like we have. Did you see the stuff on Facebook is removing the anti-quarantine like articles and people organizing to do those and stuff? Which I honestly don't think that it's a wise decision to go out and do that. Although I did see some pictures in Israel of people doing it while social distancing with lines drawn on the ground and everything. So they were all 6 feet apart and still congregated and followed social distancing, but saying we want to reopen our economy, but we want to stay safe. I thought that was a cool way to do it. But
here's the thing.
So with Facebook removing it, that's essentially
here's the deal with that with Facebook. I thought Facebook had agreed that they were not going to monitor or control certain types of posts like that. I thought unless it was like spreading false information about political voting dates or other things.
But this
Facebook had made an announcement they weren't going to do that sort of stuff.
They weren't, but this is specifically towards the stuff about organizing for anti-quarantine measures. So they have said they're essentially removing posts for it. Like I've had friends who have had stuff removed.
I don't know. I've not heard about that. I have to read that article.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple.
Facebook basically is saying they're taking down anything that has to do with protesting the lockdown.
So it's doing it against the quarantine. It's been locked by the moderators because people got too crazy. That's how crazy this post was. It was not locked when I looked at it. It will remove content organizing protests against. Oh, come on.
Well, I see it's kind of a
stay-at-home
double-edged sword,
orders,
right?
Yeah.
Because if they're organizing in large groups, so then that is potentially risking individuals, right?
Yeah, it is. But
unless you're doing it like that Israel thing where you have more of I guess.
Right, which it could be
measured.
I mean, maybe people are there's one that's organized here in Oregon, and it doesn't look to be breaking any rules for them to do it, and that's fine. But he's saying on Monday, the tech giant said he's removing posts that look to promote or organize protest against stay-at-home orders due to COVID-19. So that's pretty generic as far as what it is.
Good morning, America. We asked the companies dealing with classify as harmful misinformation that we take down. At the same time, it's important that people can debate policies. So there's a line on this. More than normal political discourse, I think a lot of stuff that people are saying that is false around a health emergency like this can be classified as harmful information.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they're doing something that's illegal, though, if they're having a legal protest, then I think that should not be taken down.
Right.
But if it's an illegal protest, then they should not allow it, I guess.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that Facebook is the one to make the decision if it's a legal or illegal protest.
Yeah, I don't. That'd be something that I wouldn't have any idea how they would know that.
Gary,
That's
my finger
interesting.
points to my screen up here. I'll show you my view real quick. this is what my view looks like, and that's my computer screen. So if you can see, I can move my mouse around and do things on my screen. So
Another super crazy thing as far as politics go, kind of on the subject of politics, but nothing to do with COVID virus right now.
right, totally fine.
I thought this was really interesting because it applies to Oregon in particular.
Yeah. Which one is
So
it?
the Supreme Court recently heard an argument pertaining to juries and what it takes to
Be on one?
jury verdicts to be considered.
Oh my gosh, I can't see it because New York Times does not want me to see it. Perfect.
Okay,
Thanks.
so basically this is what it was. In Louisiana, there was a man that was convicted of murder. Okay.
Okay.
But he was only out of the 12 jurors. only 10 of the jurors said yes, he's guilty. But in Louisiana, you don't have to have all of the jurors
Oh.
test
Positive
it only
for
has to be
COVID-19.
only has to be a large majority of them. So the guy's lawyer took this to the Supreme Court and says for federal cases, everybody on the jury has to say conclusively, yes, we believe this man is guilty. Otherwise, it's not above a reasonable doubt. Like there's doubt if
Right,
somebody's saying
yeah.
we don't think he's guilty. And there's a lot of potential for like racism to play in the fact. Like say if it's like a black man that's being on trial, and the two black individuals say, no, we don't think he did it, but 10 white people think they did do it, then there's concern for like, well, is there some like racism taking place here, right?
Right.
So in Oregon and Louisiana, Oregon was the only other state that did not require all of the jurors to be conclusive on the verdict. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that. I didn't know in Oregon that you could go to jail or be, sentenced to murder and not all the jurors would say you're guilty. Like if 2 of them said not guilty and 10 of them said guilty, you would still go to prison.
Whoa.
I was like, what? I was baffled by that. But so anyways, the Supreme Court just overruled that, saying that the states should follow the federal constitution in this way. And so there's a lot of repercussions saying that there's precedents now set. And so a lot of old cases and current cases in Oregon are going to look back and say, hey, I only had like 7 people say I was guilty and 5 said I didn't do it. I need to be let off.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But did you have something funny you wanted to say?
Well, I had 2 things. Number one, I think the most important question for this is, what does this mean for Joe Exotic?
Great question. I feel like, did he have a unanimous sentence?
I don't know.
He probably did.
Probably.
My Tiger Man probably.
You know who else needs a unanimous decision?
Who?
Carol Baskins.
Oh my gosh, Carol.
No,
Carol.
So the second funny thing that I was going to say was a comment that my uncle made, and he said, "Are you guys 6 foot apart, not wearing a mask?" Gary, this is the internet, and we are actually look at this. Look, Curtis, like high five me.
High five.
That was a 2.5 mile away high five.
Yeah.
And
cool.
it took milliseconds.
Kind of neat.
Carol Baskin. That's right, Amador. He agrees with me.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Carol Baskin 100% fed her husband to lions.
Did you?
100%.
Have you ever watched Film Review? What's that guy? I think it is like it's a YouTube channel where he does like film reviews. Well, he did a whole
like movies?
Yeah.
It's like it pops up with the comments like
Yeah. But he like talks.
Yeah.
He talks through it and he does like this is what happened and stuff like that. He does it for Tiger King, and he goes through like the size of a tiger and how much weight it takes to break a femur and to shatter it and to eat it and to be able to consume it, like Joe Exotic was saying. And no tiger has a bite strong enough to break a femur. But something does.
Well, she had
it's
a
and it's
meat composter in her
She
home.
did, but it wasn't the one that they showed in the movie. It was like a hand grind home one at the time. So there wasn't one to grind up a femur unless she was like breaking them with an axe, which I mean, whatever, pretty gross.
Right.
But
She looks like somebody that would use an axe on her husband.
but there were cats that were on there that had the bite
Liger.
strength. No, a liger can't do it either. It was like a leopard or something. You go watch it. I'll put a link in the show notes to it. It's a really interesting review of the documentary. And if you watch the after part with Joel McHale, they did an update.
I haven't seen it.
It's totally on my server. You need to watch it. Okay, so and so
Low down.
yeah, low down. And a grinder can. Yes, her meat grinder though, if you go and watch this, Amador, she didn't have one that was big enough at the time. So she kind of has that pass. But there is a cat, I think it's a leopard or something, that has like 2,400 pounds per square inch of bite, and a tiger is like 1,400 maybe, and it takes 1,700 to break femur.
Yeah, that's surprising to me.
Yeah, even a lion can't do it. So anyway, he goes through. It's a super interesting video for that. But
Oh,
anyway.
dude, I want to show you this video. Can you go onto my links? My last link.
Yes, this one.
This makes my palms sweat. I couldn't believe this. There's no
Might be inappropriate. I
Yeah,
understand and wish to proceed.
like music, so we won't get taken down.
I'm gonna at least turn it down so it's not like crazy
Yeah.
loud.
My palms.
Do I need to show this for people?
It may be fun for them to see it.
Okay.
Okay, turn it up a little bit, just a little bit. My palms were sweating. This.
What the?
Watch this. This is nuts, you guys.
Okay, so this guy's like a parkour runner.
Do you know how many of
he's
these guys have
standing-
died doing this?
Yeah.
So many.
He's standing on the edge of a, like, probably, I don't know, 70-story building.
Oh, it's tall. Yeah.
And he's running across the ledge right now. He jumps over another ledge, falls off.
What the? What caught him?
Okay, you can pause it. So what we just watched, you can turn it down and watch it again if you want.
What
What
caught
we just
him?
watched though, he was running, he literally jumped off the ledge, accidentally slipped, started falling off the building, grabbed a wire. It ended up being an electrical wire. He was getting electrocuted as he grabbed the wire. He wouldn't let go of the wire though. Right here, what he's grabbing.
Yeah.
You see that, Jordan?
Yes.
That's actually electric wire. He's talking about after he gets off the ledge. He talks about how he was pulling himself off with this electric wire and getting shocked.
What the heck? Oh my gosh. No, thank you.
Oh, dude.
I don't. Yeah. I want to watch
Terrible.
that in full screen in VR.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
terrifying.
Okay, so this is hilarious. So jumping back to the COVID-19 thing, did you hear what they did in New York? So number one, like Zoom is being banned everywhere, right? So it's like, don't do this if you're a human being. Like,
Why is Zoom getting banned? I didn't know that.
it's banned by like governments and stuff. We've done it
Oh, I
where
didn't
I
know that.
work and stuff like that. It's had a bunch of security problems and whatnot. And
But
there's
I
been
thought those
some
were fixed.
there's been people that have gone and done indecent things like naked touching themselves and stuff like that, showing themselves on people's videos and broken into people's rooms that shouldn't be there. Like I saw one that was like guys like getting busy with themselves like in a Zoom stream for like exercise. Like there's all these people exercising in all the boxes and there's like a naked guy.
He's exercising, okay?
Yeah, he's exercising his right to touch himself. Anyway, so like they've been banned everywhere. But what they did in New York is they legalized marriages over Zoom.
Oh.
So you can have someone officiate over Zoom. And then so
How many divorces are going to be related to
okay,
this COVID
for serious.
outbreak?
So you can do this via Zoom, but also something my dad sent me right after we streamed last week was this update on what you can do in Zoom. And it is you can hire I don't even know how to say this.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
You can hire a llama to join you in your Zoom call for less than $100. So like they'll
That is
show up for like
amazing.
45 minutes and just be on your Zoom call as like
That
random
is
farm animals.
amazing.
It's like, who thought of this that quickly that there'd be a market for their llamas and alpacas in Zoom? Like,
That's genuinely amazing.
yeah. It's anyway, yeah. Phew. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, that's a lot of Corona talk. I have a lot more articles we could talk about, but I don't know if I want to. I have some really fun TILs, and I think you have one too.
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Okay. So here's my first. I have 4 TILs. Wait, no, I have 3. Never mind. I have 4. They're all really good and they're short. So today I learned this one just baffles me. A waitress was tipped a lottery ticket and won $10 million. Pretty cool. She was then sued by her colleagues for their share. Then she was sued by the man who trapped her or tipped her the ticket. Then she was kidnapped by her ex-husband and shot him in the chest. Then
What?
she went to court against the IRS. It's like
Did she win against the IRS?
I don't know. I didn't read that far.
Oh
But
my
like, it's just like
gosh.
one like really cool event, and then like just a tumble down the hill of like
Oh,
not
girl.
even worth it by
Not
the
worth it.
end.
not worth it.
So here's another one. Today I learned.
Her boyfriend in the chest.
I know a retired American heart and lung surgeon has patented a scuba suit that would allow a human to breathe liquid air like in the movie The Abyss. He has simulated 10 or 1,000 foot dives with mammals and has
Yeah.
decompressed them less than half a second with no decompression sickness.
Yeah. So this is that's a real thing. They have actual oxygenated liquid that you can breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And circulate so you can go to lower depths.
Yeah,
but it's
because
a real...
because it doesn't crush your lungs then.
Yeah,
'Cause you
the
have-
pressure doesn't play the same effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I after the Abyss, I looked into that and I was like, is that a real thing?
If you want
It actually
to,
is,
if you want
but-
to see a really cool, like Mark Rober did a video. He's been doing these science classes once a week, and one of them is on buoyancy, and he talks about like what causes your lungs and stuff to basically like burst underwater and stuff. It's really interesting. Like he goes through the math and everything about it. Okay, so here's another one. Today, like you're gonna love this one. Today, I learned in 1993 a proposal to build a giant advertising billboard in outer space that would appear roughly the same size and brightness as the moon. The project didn't meet funding and inspired a bill to ban all advertisement in outer space.
Good. That'd be so trashy.
Yeah,
so
it would be terrible. So here's my last one. Is today I learned you're gonna love this, and this is kind of like my play when I shared and I said we'd talk about Voldemort. But really, I was saying we're gonna talk about Lord of the Rings. They're the same thing. Today I learned of the unofficial Russian book, The Last Ring Bearer, which describes the Lord of the Rings trilogy from Sauron's point of view and portrays Mordor as the good guys.
Oh, whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I kind of want that to be a movie.
Yeah, I do too, actually. That'd be really cool. Or an audiobook.
Yeah.
Okay. So today I learned that Hawaii's first queen, or no, the first time she was running the country for Hawaii, the country was, or state, whatever, was marked by a smallpox outbreak.
Whoa.
But she took decisive action to stop the spread by closing all the ports. But that drew the ire, or like the frustration of the rich sugarcane plantation owners, and eventually led to the coup that overthrew her.
Whoa.
So like,
just like now.
the queen. Yeah. So basically she made a huge move to protect her people.
Right.
Basically she got overthrown because people lost money.
Yeah.
And now looking back, that looks like a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
But people now in the same place are like, we need to keep money. We got to keep going. But it'll be interesting what history shows.
There was a TIL. I'll see if I can find it and post it in our show notes. But essentially, it was like I think it was a place in California where rich people got angry during the Spanish flu and overthrew and had like an uprising, and they ended up having more deaths than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, makes sense. People are short-minded. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Not
Yeah.
everybody, just okay.
Yeah.
Shower thoughts.
Yeah.
Hit me with the first
Okay.
one.
Hit me with your best thought. Okay. Um, People's hate for Carol Baskin really shows our willingness to listen and follow the ramblings of a crazy man with charisma.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you're thrown into outer space, nothing kills you.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Takes
one.
a second to think about
I
that.
had to think about that for a second.
Because if you're thrown into space, it's nothing that kills you.
Oh, that's good. Luke and Leia probably think they are different ages because a year on Tatooine is probably different than Alderaan.
That's true. That's a good point. That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Okay, so in several states, marijuana went from being illegal
To essential.
in just a couple years.
Oh my gosh. So for reals, I love
Isn't that crazy, that thought?
in Oregon they made a curbside pickup for marijuana legal. Like they legalized what they were arresting people for just like 3 years ago. Like you can order
my
order in an app on your phone, pull up and get it. Like what the heck?
That's so funny.
I'm all for it, but it's just funny to me. With a significant decline in global air pollution, it's a really good opportunity for Google and spy satellites alike to take new pictures of Earth.
That's a good point.
It's nice that water bottles also give you an auditory cue when you're filling them up.
Oh, it's true.
Because I think about that all the time. I challenge myself. Like when I'm filling my water in the fridge, I'll put the cup underneath it, and I'll be like, does that sound like it's full? Does that sound like it's full? There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
Yep. If you put a humidifier and a dehumidifier in the same room, you would essentially have a wireless hose.
That's funny. That's a good one. Okay. The planet could benefit a lot if we made humanity staying inside occasionally a regular thing, like a month out of every year.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be interesting? Like every year,
We just kind of
like,
take a chill pill.
whatever state you're in.
It's like a
that
siesta
state.
month.
Yeah, or like it went with your last names, or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds
Like-
like the Mormon church assigning when you can go to church
Yeah, which is good.
or where. Big Cereal told us that candy with milk on it is a good way to start the day, and we all like the idea too much to question it.
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
I think that's actually. I don't know if I have any more shower thoughts.
I have a few, and they're all really good, so you should just steal mine from the screen here.
Okay, all right, go for it. You doing your next one so I can see where you're at.
Okay, I'm right here. Balding is not in the body positivity movement, but gaining weight is. However,
I know.
one of those things is oftentimes more controllable, while the other happens whether you like it or not.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
That's a really good point. Drinking through a straw.
Is the exact opposite of going snorkeling.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
true. My uncle says, does Oregon allow drive-up black market marijuana only, or only Oregon tax marijuana?
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably not going to care too much if you'd only do a little bit, but yeah.
Seattle's or Washington's probably close to the same.
Yeah, they're probably pretty lax too. The whole West Coast is fairly lax. I remember when I was driving California, I was like, man, they have a lot of weed advertisements here.
Okay, wait. What if this was the case? What if they found out that cannabis was like somehow
cure.
the main antiviral measure, and that's why the West Coast was doing so good?
Yes. Oh,
Shower thought.
I would love that. Okay. People who stumble on bodies in the woods often think they're mannequins at first, but finding a mannequin in the woods makes
Yeah.
less sense than finding a body.
Yeah, that's so true.
Like that'd be very. I cannot think of a good reason to take a mannequin out in the woods.
I mean, well, maybe if you're lonely, like if you're social distancing.
I guess. I don't know what you're doing with that mannequin, but yeah, I guess.
Maybe. Hey, no judgment.
So
no judgment.
people who respond with, "That's not how the
World works when told to be nice are the reason that's not how the world works. Yeah, that's
so
true.
Yep. Yeah, they should get the COVID. You know you've made it when your couches aren't against a wall.
Ooh.
I picked this one for two reasons. One,
interesting.
it's super true. Two, your couch is against a wall.
Oh yeah,
So
Yeah.
you haven't made it yet. Sorry.
that's interesting. As a child, you are amazed at how adults are able to do such complicated things. As an adult, you're amazed at how other adults are unable to do such simple things.
So true.
That's funny.
Okay, now this last one, we have to implement this. Okay,
Okay.
we have to start doing this. We talk about half hour and quarter hours, but never third hours, even though it's a nice even 20 minutes.
That's a good point.
You know why?
That's a great point.
You know why I think we don't?
Hmm.
Most people don't know that a third is larger than a half, or is larger than a quarter. Like I saw,
No.
I saw
You
a
think so?
questionnaire where they like question people on fractions, and people got the third and the quarter wrong a majority of the time.
That's really sad.
It's super sad.
Well, people need to do more fractions.
Yeah, for reals.
Oh,
All right, man.
Well, guys, thanks for listening to Test and Normal. We appreciate y'all.
Woo!
Whoop whoop. It's fun catching back up with you. And yeah, guys, subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Let us know what you like. Let us know if there's anything else juicy you want to converse about. And I hope you all have a fantastic week. And we will talk to
You
later.
later.
Peace
We're gonna
out.
go. Bye.
A-Train.